Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly Dose of Truth Tarot. This is for the week of the 10th of July to the 16th. And someone had asked me to do a session or a reading based on what's going to happen to the world. Now, I have to kind of narrow that down a bit because, is it going to be 100 years, 500 years? I decided to put it into the next 10 years. So the question is, what is going to happen with all of the contradictory debates going on and disagreements, even with myself over the years as I've explored the feminine and masculine, I've had a lot of disagreements with people till I finally went, maybe I'm wrong. And then I heard Andrew Huberman talking about gay men, homosexual men being hyper masculinized. So I used to say, I think gay men are not feminine, they're hyper masculinized. Of course, everyone said no. Now, I'm not going to go through all of that. I could do that as a separate fun talk or something like that if anyone's interested in the way I do it. It's a little complex. It's not straightforward, but definitely an interesting thing to look at. So, nobody is right or wrong. I don't think I'm right just because that came up that way, but it does validate some interesting ideas that are out there in the world. And also, what's going to happen to us? Are we all going to get very disagreeable? I'm thinking of different things like people getting involved online, what online is true and what's false. All right, so here I see this one. This is the one. Looks like it has a little mark on it. No, it doesn't. It was just a shadow. So Page of Swords to first answer this question. So this is about what's going on in the world, what's going to happen to us. We're giving a time period within 10 years. And I'm also looking at, all of the it's the first time in history where we are so interconnected in the world, and we get to listen to our own echo chambers. We get to listen to our own confirmation bias. Before, let's say, our confirmation bias would have been, I hear people say this all the time, oh, Terry-Ann, you're wrong. And I'll go, okay, why am I wrong? I'm willing to hear it. I'm wrong because my friends say. It's like, okay, all the people I know say. Now, you think for yourself, what's the problem with that? Well, usually the people we know, usually the people that we like, we hang around with, are people like us. They agree with us. I have different environments in my life, and there are certain areas where people completely disagree with me. And I have areas where we're all in agreement. Why? Well, we've got our own confirmation bias, or we've got our own interests and we all really like it and we enjoy it and it's all okay and it's all fine, etc. Now, if we're looking at this card, Page of Swords, this is what I'm describing, the world of ideas, right? The world of ideas, sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. I was describing the world of ideas, but the page is the delivery of all these ideas. We have all these ideas and we're delivering them out there. He's almost got like a bat, here, I'll take my my crystal. And it's like I'm going to bat those ideas out there. Great, that's wonderful. But we want to know what's going to happen. So that's our first card. Second card is, we're going to probably have, this is twofold. One is we may have the strength of our own viewpoints and opinions, ways of looking at the world. Now, if you notice, this is the feminine strength. So in tarot, strength is usually the feminine. I think the only tarot cards or archetypal representations of strength being masculine is Norse. But in the majority of tarot decks, it's feminine. And what does that have to do with anything? Well, I can have a bunch of ideas. The feminine strength needs to ground them. the feminine strength. Why? Because she is grounding. She can take in infinite messages, but she's got to ground. Terribly sorry, my nails are awful, but anyway. I don't always have time to do everything, so you're getting me with cruddy nails. All right. So we're going to want to ground those ideas and ground them in nature, right? In nature. So that means when I say in nature, what does that mean? Well, a seed is planted and it grows in the ground. That's nature. Another thing that is nature is that most female in the species, in all the species, reproduce, especially in mammalian species. The female reproduces. The female has the ability to have a baby, gives birth. And the masculine is what supplies the other half of the genetic material, okay? So we know that. When something is derived from that, it's different. It's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's not, where people get very upset whether it's a bad thing or a good thing. But we know in nature that is what is very real, right? Super real. Like now people have all these debates on, can a man be a woman? Can a woman be a man? Well, first thing I say is who cares? But there are certain problems that can arise, which you can think about for yourself. Certain problems, like if a male who disguises himself as a female, he's not actually a female, and not actually identifying either. He's just pretending to identify and decides to go into the female washroom and hurt some women. That's not a good thing, right? That's not a good thing. So it's like, how are you going to prove you've been a female for a long time? You look like a female. There's plenty of trans women who look absolutely like women and you would not mistake it. But there are plenty that don't look like women, and there's plenty of times people can fake it. So what do we do with this? Well, first of all, we can't say that they are women. We're going to have to use our reasoning to be able to deal with the problem of invading women's spaces, etc., 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 or even children's areas. Yeah. So the person is not the problem. The person is what they are. That's fine. But the problem is trying to get other people to agree with those things when it's not necessarily a safe place for just anyone. I mean, each individual we know, we could go, but this person's safe. Of course you can say that. If you tell me men are dangerous, I'm going to go, no, they're not. The majority of men I've known are safe. But there's a bunch of men I've known and really not known, and they happen to be very dangerous to me. And I've gotten into big trouble. So what do we do with that? That's all I would look at nature for. Especially in that silly debate. Oh, that was already turned over. I don't want to use one that's already turned over. I want to kind of mix this up and see. Where are we going? So we've got to use nature and our strength of understanding nature. We all understand nature. And we all understand different ideas put into nature. What is happening there? So I used kind of the trans idea, etc., etc. And remember, I'm not saying there's any problem with that. It's just fine. It's just, do you want a man in female spaces? Do you want that? Do we want that? Is that acceptable? And we're not going to just agree with the ideology. We have to go back to nature. And there we go. So it says, all of the ideas that are not within the strength of what is normal and natural will end up with the devil, or they will be demonic. Ideas, so you could put this both ways. Ideas that have strength that are demonic are going to have a problem. So ideas that have strength can fight the demons, the ones that are based in nature. If you're not based in nature, I mean, that obviously makes sense why homosexual, gay men and women have always fought for the idea that they were born as gay. I don't know why I'm using this topic, but it's the one that came up intuitively, so let's go with it. If you're born that way, which makes a lot of sense, that you are born that way. So Huberman was talking about that. Was it Huberman? It was. There are many studies that it's 5 different studies that measured finger size, the ratio of the fourth finger, ring finger, to the index finger, and if the index finger, the ring finger was much longer, it's a ratio, so you can't just look at your finger and go, it's much longer. There's a ratio that would determine that you're gay, which makes so much sense that you're born with it. And then there's the reasoning for that is that, let's say someone is like the 4th male born after 3 male brothers, or 2 male brothers, but definitely the longer down the chain of male brothers that you have, there's going to be more testosterone in the womb, and that child can be born homosexual and be hyper masculinized. Okay, kind of interested in this topic today because hearing this information from Huberman, it kind of validates my idea that that I always thought that gay men were hyper masculinized, whereas everyone said they were hyper feminized. Now I know that's a hard one to wrap around. I even tried to explain it to my partner, and he said, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, if you take feminine traits, not feminine external like women wear makeup, you take actual feminine traits and masculine traits, you will see that the homosexuals are hyper masculinized. For example, would you say that gay men are closer to nature and grounded? They're messy, and messy is not a criticism, that they're, they're not necessarily going to go out and make sure they're all set up. Now, there can be some gay men that do that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but it's not traditionally how we look at a gay man. A gay man is usually put together. His apartment is quite streamlined. He takes care of things. That's hyper masculinized. Order. The external, right? The way you in the tarot would be the sun. So this is my theory, and I have my first validation of it. So lots of fun stuff to explore. So here we're looking at, as I said, where we're going. These ideas, so ideas that are getting more and more strength, right? That are getting more and more strength. This is also can relate to the more feminized our culture becomes, the more demonic it becomes. God, women are going to hate me for that, aren't you, women? But it is true, because women women can be extremely toxic, and very passive aggressive. So their attitudes can be, I should say, our attitudes. I mean, the reason I know what a female is like is because I am one, and I know what parts of my nature I need to curb, right? The one that talks about people, the one that looks at, I can see where all the different aspects would come from. I've felt myself, seen myself do it, and I curb it. I just curb it. I go, that's not useful, but it's the way we women are, right? One of the things I notice is the uglification of women with the approval of other older women. This is strange. Why would I approve of your uglification? Why would I approve that you make yourself uglier and uglier? You like it, again, absolutely fine. You like it, that's great, that's fine. But if you're out there in the world and you're gaining weight, and I have total issues with weight, always have this problem, always working on it. It's ever present in my life, in my mind, that you're going to walk around and say, oh, it's lovely to be fat. I don't think that that's something we should agree with. You could say the person looks lovely. That's not the point. But fat isn't beautiful. Fat isn't healthy, right? So I don't think it's healthy on me, and I don't think it's beautiful on me either. I try to put myself together best as possible, etc. And that's it. And I'm constantly figuring out different ways to lose the weight. So what else? There's also just making too many holes and marks on the face. That to me, on the face and body, that to me is telling me, I mean, this is personal, but I think there'd be a lot of people who agree. That's telling me that you have a wound. So I remember as a child when I would be really, really upset with my parents, the first thing I would want to do was cut. In those days, there was a razor, and I'd kind of like put little slices in my face. And I look back later in life, I'm like, wow, you got so frustrated that you wanted to cut yourself, but you also wanted to cut your face. Fascinating. So why do we want to do these things? These things are when we can be completely frustrated. We can be having the experience that, all of the things in the world are very difficult and hard to deal with. Yes, yes, yes. But we need to fight the devil. So that's a really long, kind of drawn out view of these 3 cards, but it's not beautiful. So the next 10 years, there's going to be more and more ideas that take a strong hold, and what will end up happening is a lot of us will be possessed by the devil. But now that you know, you don't have to be possessed by the devil. All right, everyone, have a good week. Bye.